Can Kazuha replace the ultimate 4-star GenshinImpact Xiangling? The answer is no, for each unit is unique and irreplaceable, as one might say. However, they have a similar mechanic that brings forth the question on if they can be utilized within similar team comps. Now you might ask, how does an Anemo support unit have any similarities towards a Pyro main DPS? Well, look at these two side by side. Can you tell the difference between these abilities? Kazuha's Elemental Burst when infused with Pyro is very similar to Xiangling's Elemental Burst, both being deployable skills and periodically doing damage over time. So, why not experiment with the concept and see if we could optimize Kazuha's Elemental Burst to match Xiangling? Right here we're specifically comparing Xiangling's Pyronado damage to Kazuha's additional elemental damage from his Elemental Burst, due to being the damage multiplier that's associated with Kazuha's infused Pyro damage. At first glance, this idea seems rather ridiculous. Just comparing Kazuha's and Xiangling's multipliers for their damage already shows that Xiangling wins by a landslide. When incorporating these units within Vaporize and Melt comps, it becomes obvious that Xiangling can't be beat. Even when adding on a Pyro damage bonus to Kazuha, along with attack percentage and crit damage artifacts, the numbers speaks for themselves. Kazuha not only loses damage from not building Anemo damage, but also loses his Swirl damage and support capabilities for the rest of the team when not building EM. So, I guess this was just a ridiculous idea. Or at least it was, until now. When the Raiden national team was constructed, it incorporated a double reaction mechanic where Xiangling was able to proc Vaporize and Overload reactions at the same time. This is due to Hydro and Electro being applied constantly by Raiden and Xingqiu. Out of those two reactions, one actually scales with EM. Overload scales with EM. Kazuha scales with EM. See where I'm getting at? Kazuha's raw damage still won't be able to match the damage of Xiangling, but can be incorporated as a replacement within this team to not only shine within his designated role, but also increase his own damage output. So, with a bunch of trial and error, I figured out a single target optimal rotation that has Kazuha's triple Swirl, Electro, Hydro, and Pyro. But before that, let's go over rotation within an AOE environment. Here I use Raiden's skill to buff all elemental bursts within the party and deal all field damage throughout their entire rotation. Then I use Bennett's skill and ulti to knock back enemies to group them closer together. I switch to Kazuha to use his hold skill, then elemental burst to group them for Xingqiu's skill as he uses elemental burst. Finally, at the end of the rotation, Raiden uses her elemental burst to deal the finishing blow. Repeat. For AOE environments, just make sure you're positioned well to group and hit multiple enemies. The reason why I split this showcase into two different rotations is to optimize both AOE and single target potential that a team comp has. We wouldn't want to overkill a single target when we have to worry about multiple targets anyways. But with that out of the way, let's go over the optimized single target rotation. Disclaimer, this rotation has pretty strict timing and can be screwed up in multiple ways. I'll be explaining the rotation in full depth, but if you want to skip ahead to see the combo without all the exclamation, there should be a timestamp for it. Anyways, the optimized single target rotation has you start with Raiden's skill, for the same reason as the previous rotation. Then we follow it up with Xingqiu's elemental burst. This is so that we can have Kazuha normal attack and Swirl Hydro and Electro with his top skill. Swap to Bennett and sprint away from the enemy before you use elemental skill. This is so that Xingqiu's rain swords that surround the active character don't inflict Hydra upon the enemy and screw up elemental reactions. Then sprint away again when you use Bennett's elemental burst to set up for Xingqiu's skill to vaporize. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure out a way to optimally have Xingqiu vaporize the second hit of his elemental skill, but it's better than nothing. Wait for Xingqiu to obtain his energy particles, then swap to Kazuha and wait for your elemental skill to come back off cooldown, while keeping your distance away from the enemy, so that again, Xingqiu's rain swords don't screw up any elemental reactions. Note that my Kazuha is C1, so the cooldown is shorter for this rotation. I haven't tested this on C0, but the rotation should still operate the same, just with a little downtime. Now, here's the crucial aspect of having Kazuha triple Swirl within this rotation. Make sure that right after Kazuha normal attacks once, he uses his hold skill. These two actions have to essentially be glued together so that Kazuha can double Swirl Hydro and Electro, while removing both elemental statuses on the enemy. What's a double Swirl, you might ask? Well, yeah. If you want to learn more about double swirls, I have a link to KitchenMain's website on the specific details. But essentially, Kazuha's elemental skill gauge has to be greater than the Hydra aura applied on the enemy. That's why I'm using Kazuha's hold skill instead of his tap skill. How do you figure out if you have double swirled or not? Well, without all the knowledge and calculating, use trial and error until you see a pop-up of two swirls on the same ability, like shown here. Keep in mind that this only applies to electric charge and freeze reactions. Here, Kazuha is able to swirl Pyro due to his infused Pyro skill coming from Bennett's elemental burst, inflicting Kazuha with Pyro. Also, with the priority of infusion with animal abilities being Pyro, Hydro, Electro, Think Firingly, Cryo. Though you might ask, why bother to swirl Pyro when Bennett doesn't utilize the Pyro damage buff? Well, Kazuha actually benefits from the Pyro damage bonus when proccing not only Vaporize but also Overload. So yes, the pain and suffering of figuring out this rotation and interaction was worth at least something. Follow up Kazuha's skill with an Elemental Burst and normal attack once before swapping to Raiden. This is so that Kazuha's Elemental Burst can proc elemental reactions before and after Raiden's Elemental Burst animation. After Raiden's burst, repeats if you have enough energy recharge. Note that Xingqiu will be the main unit you'll have to worry about for energy recharge. Let's rewind to showcase the rotation without the pauses. Going over why this rotation is possible, what people don't realize about Kazuha's kits is that he's able to increase his additional and elemental damage output through his passive talent. Even though it doesn't impact much due to his low damage multipliers, it is still something. However, along with his other passive and transformative reactions, it creates a lot of flexibility when equipping artifacts for either attack percentage in crits or EM. This also makes meme and hybrid builds viable and possibly optimal for certain team comps and situations. Generally, a full EM build is the best for Kazuha, but a hybrid build is pretty viable for this team comp. The optimal balance between EM and attack percentage and crit artifacts, though, would take a ton of math to figure out, if there even is one, and I'm too lazy to calculate that all out. But it shows potential possibility. Moving on to the pros and cons of using Kazuha instead of Xiangling within the Raiden national team comp. Kazuha is an exclusive 5-star while Xiangling is a free 4-star. I'm pretty sure that's self-explanatory. Xiangling's kit is a lot simpler and brings forth loads of damage while constantly being enabled to proc Vaporize reactions, while Kazuha requires a lot of setup in order to buff your entire party and optimize DPS. Kazuha's Elemental Burst is stationary, while Xiangling's Elemental Burst moves with your active unit. You can control where you want Xiangling's Elemental Burst to be when moving around, while enemies can move away from Kazuha's Elemental Burst. However, Kazuha has AOE grouping capabilities for the annoying overload reactions you'll be proccing within this team comp. Finally, the Elemental Resonance when replacing Xiangling with Kazuha within this team comp, Protective Canopy, sucks in comparison. Please change this miHoYo to something more practical. Kazuha may not be able to beat Xiangling within Vaporize and Bell comps, but can someone match Xiangling within one specific team comp? And honestly, that's good enough for me. Kazuha has so many interesting interactions built within his kit, and gives him ultimate potential within current and future team comps. I encourage you to experiment yourself and see what ultimate combos you can pull off. Hope you enjoyed this video as you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all which are free to play friendly. But anyways, enjoy the rest of your night.